So Elden Ring patch 1.03 has just dropped and it brings a whole bag of nerfs as well as some buffs. Depending on what weapons and styles you play this game, you're probably either going to be happy or unhappy. Let's start out with some balance changes. So first of all, they've made some changes to having some early game access to smithing stones. They've increased the drop rate for smithing stones from some enemies, as well as adding smithing stone to some early game shop lineups. I'm guessing these are the merchants. They've increased the effectiveness of shields. They've increased the damage of all offensive cracked pot items that you can throw. They've increased the damage for Spark Aromatic and Poison Spray Mist, as well as the effect duration of Uplifting Aromatic and Iron Jar Aromatic. They've increased the healing for Torrent when using the following items: Roa Raisin, Sweet Raisin, and Frozen Raisin to heal your horse. They've reduced the FP consumption and increased the damage of the following sorceries: Glintstone Comet Shard, Comet, and Night Comet. They've increased the damage of Gravity Well, Collapsing Stars, and Crystal Barrage. So if you're using things like sorcery and stuff, this is your buffs for you. Sorcerers are clapping their hands because they just got some extreme buffs here. They've also got decreased FP consumption for the following spells: Star Shower, Rock Blaster, Gavel of Haima, Founding Rain of Stars, Stars of Ruin, Great Blade Flanks, Magic Downpour, Logretta's Great Bow, Loretta's Mastery, Carrion Greatsword, Carrion Piercer, Shard Spiral. They're all going to be cheaper to cost now and not cost as much. So if you guys in PvP or just in general are going to have a much better time using some magic spells. They've also raised the projectile speed and range of Great Glintstone Shard. So that's going to be nice for you guys too. Now let's talk about things that are going to make some people upset. These are the nerfs that we're seeing. So they've decreased the Ash of War Hoarfrost Stomp's damage and increased its cost time. So from what I've experienced, its actual cost time is fine. It's just you can't immediately cost it after costing it again. So like getting follow-up costs takes a bit extra time from what I can tell, like using it. Its damage feels like it just does 50% less damage, so it doesn't feel as good anymore as what it was before because it was brokenly strong before. But it still gives you that frost, build up and everything. So that's still good. I mean, that still makes you deal a lot more damage to enemies. So it's still a great way to apply cold to enemies when you want to fight them. They've increased the Ash of War Bloody Slash's self-inflict damage while slightly lowering the damage and increasing its cost time. They've decreased the weapon skill Sword of Night and Flames damage. So people shooting those laser beams and those fire kind of like slashes, that damage isn't going to hurt as much anymore. So that is a nerf to you guys too. They've increased the FP consumption and lowered the duration of the Ash of War Barricade Shield. Now, I've never used this, so I'm not really sure. Maybe I was missing out. They changed the FP consumption timing of Ash of War Prelate's Charge, also something I haven't experienced before. They decreased the damage of the Spirit Summoned when you're using the Mimic tier Ash. Your Mimic no longer follows certain behavior patterns, and they're not as strong as you anymore. They're basically going to be like half of your effectiveness, or just more than half of your effectiveness. So they're not going to be taking on bosses by themselves anymore. You're going to actually have to use them as just as a distraction to do a little bit more damage, but they're not going to carry fights for you anymore, unfortunately. They also list that there have been many other enemy and slight weapon balance changes throughout the game. I'm surprised the Moonveil was not touched. The Moonveil is just as it was before, at least from what I've experienced. Now, they've also added a bunch of new additional elements to the game, which is quite interesting. They've added a function to record an icon and the name of an NPC on the map when you encounter that NPC. So you can put like a reminder, okay, this NPC was here, so you remember them later. And they've also added a new NPC called Jar Baron, if I'm even saying this correctly. They've added new quest phases for the following NPCs: Dialos, Nephilia Lu, Kenneth Height, if I'm saying that correctly, Gatekeeper Gostok. And they've also added extra summonable NPCs in multiple situations to help you in boss fights, like I think you've seen before in the game, where you can like summon NPCs, much like Radahn's fight, but like through other different fights or different areas of the game, you can summon more NPCs to help you in those battles. They've increased the number of patterns of objects players can imitate when using Mimic's Veil. So you can now like play hide and seek or prop hunt more effectively, I guess. They also added night background music for some open field area. that's very vague, but I'm guessing just some different type of background music for nighttime. I guess that's nice. And they fixed a bunch of bugs. I don't want to list everything here because there's just a bunch of bugs, but it's if there's something that you've been struggling with in the game that is a bug, it's most likely going to be fixed now because they've fixed a bunch of things like hang-ups, weapons not scaling properly when they're upgraded, like the arcane effect wasn't affecting some skills to actually increase their additional attack power when you used arcane like skills. They've also hidden an armor that was called Ragged Armor Set from the game, which was mistakenly obtainable. I wonder if this. They're probably going to bring DLC for this game, I think, actually. They might bring DLC out for this. I'm actually curious about that now. And then there's a bunch of just other performance fixes and things that were like incorrect or visually or, behaving incorrectly. They kind of just fixed a bunch of stuff that wasn't working the way it was supposed to. And that's everything you need to know about version 1.03's patch for Elden Ring. I hope you guys are happy. If you're a sorcerer, if you're not happy, you probably use the Hoarfrost Stomp and the Knight of Flame Sword, which no longer are as effective. But I guess it's a fair trade-off because they were a little too strong. I mean, they're still good, but they're just not as good anymore. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching.